everybody. We're back for another episode of Infernal Intercourse with me and Pastor Brian. So
Hello.
today we are going to be discussing the character of Charlie, our little half angel, half human baby, which normally we would call a nephilim, right? That's sort of the half-breeds that are in chapter 6 of Genesis. And we had an episode of the nephilim earlier in our little series, so you can go back and watch that. But up to this point, the only time we've ever heard the word on this show was in season 2. And I don't remember the name of the episode, but I have the little clip in our Nephilim episode. So if you go back and watch it, it'll be in there. Where M.Div tells Lucifer, I really think you're in danger. And Lucifer says, well, from who? The Yakuza? The Nephilim? Who? And that's the only time it was ever like name dropped until season 4 at some point when it's clear that M.Div and Linda are having a baby, and someone says, well, the baby will be a Nephilim. It's like, but then people also said this has never happened before, so how can you have a name for it if it has never happened? And so unusual that Remiel apparently smells the child from heaven and comes down to get it, and she says, I have sensed this new celestial, and I need to, cut it out of its mother and fly it back to heaven for whatever reason. We get this set up in season 4 that we flip this in season 5. So thoughts, Brian?
I love that I love when they return the angels to like this primitive, like kind of like what people stereotype the Old Testament God, and all this is very like, murderous and rough and judgment. And I think that's awesome. But the whole Charlie thing, I think it's just because I'm not that interested in babies. Maybe because I come from a huge family with lots of beautiful babies all the time. So it's a weird plot point to me. But I think it will get more important. I felt weird when it was driving that whole demon plot thing earlier. So I'm just of the opinion that it's half angel, and so it's going to have angel traits and it's going to have human traits. But I mean, I think that's what we're going to be discussing, at least what the internal logic of the show says about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we're told this has never happened, and Remiel even says, of course, she thinks it's Lucifer's, and she's like, I'm so surprised this hasn't happened before. And at some point, someone says that to Lucifer, and he's like, well, it's impossible. It can't happen. So clearly, of course, angels weren't supposed to have sex with humans anyway. That's apparently a rule that they're breaking, and God doesn't care. But secondly, we're apparently not compatible to create babies. So is it that M.Div was more or less human when this happened because he lost his powers, he lost his wings? We don't know if he was actually mortal or not because that never came up. But so he was sort of a quasi-human at the time, so maybe that's why it worked. But does that mean that Charlie is really half angel, half human, or is he all human? Because now he's had a cold, and of course no one's worried about the baby having a cold except for M.Div. But then only after Michael comes and tells him, right, well, he's got a cold, he can't be an angel, he'll have to live as a human. And this is another thing with this show. The angels are so worried about their friends dying. It's like, but most of your friends are good people, right? So you assume that when your friends die, they're probably going to heaven. So it's not necessarily a tragedy when your friends die.
M.Div got to make the call right on the spot with Charlotte, right?
Right. So. Like, let's go home, and he flies her up there, right? Apparently she's there because Eve says that she met her there, and that's how she knew where to find Lucifer in this nightclub, because Charlotte Richards told her where to find him. So yeah, so they seem really, really worried every time that a human gets sick or is injured. That's someone that's one of their friends, or their particular humans that they like. And now they're really, really worried that Charlie's going to grow up to be a human and he'll suffer and he'll have to suffer death. And it's like, and then maybe he'll go to heaven. And what's the difference if he goes to heaven now as a baby, or he goes to heaven because he's half angel and he gets wings and so he can just fly himself there, or he lives a whole human life and dies and goes to heaven? I mean, ultimately, he's in heaven. So, I'm not sure I get the angst.
It's like that white middle class guilt that like looks at poor unfortunates, and they're suffering. Maybe the angels, just since they can't relate, it's exaggerated in their mind or something, And also, of course, mortality is,
Mhm.
an odd thing for them. So
Yeah, except they meet. I mean, if you lived in heaven, at least it's unclear when the fall was, but it seems to have been pre-Eden. So I guess when Lucifer lived in heaven, there weren't any people there. But M.Div.'s been there since people, so he should have met a lot of them. Although I'm not clear on if the angels actually interact with human souls because they really seem to despise us a lot. So I would think they kind of snooty and have their own neighborhood.
yeah, I get that. I think that it's meant to be implied that because they're so fresh to humans when they first start mingling on Earth, and
Mm,
then immediately become enamored of them. So it's kind of interesting.
yeah, if you'd known a few more in heaven, maybe you yeah would know.
Unfortunately, we won't get to see Charlie grow up, but now there's tons of potentials for plot. Like it could be its own series because again, with a half human, half angel within this mythology, there is ton of potential for that. That would be fascinating. But as a baby, I don't know. It's kind of boring to me. But
Baby characters are generally not good for television shows. Yeah, they usually just like kill plots dead, and yet every show at some point feels the need to put a baby in it. I'm not clear why. It's like, have you not noticed 100 other shows that were completely ruined by introducing a baby? Because they're just, what can you do with them in a plot, really? They don't do anything, and so you could pass
I,
them around and you can refer to them, but
yeah,
it's not like they
I
do.
mean, and they have at least used it as a plot thing a little bit. I think I worry, so again, at the same time, I'm protective. So I do worry about Michael on the loose
Mhm.
with the extremely vulnerable thing of Charlie, being around. So I can't imagine they're going to let that pass without some kind of tension over that at some point.
Mhm. Yeah, so we'll just have to see what happens with baby Charlie, and hopefully they find something um, useful and interesting to do with him, because that would be great. But usually baby characters are just suck the life out of a television show. So, you know, pray to God that doesn't happen, I guess, right?
Yeah. Unless they give it some weird deep voice and some kind of like adult awareness, and it starts speaking or something, like something weird like that, which I think is far out there even for them, even for one of their weird episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of weird episodes, the musical episode, which they did release a little clip of, and I have not seen it yet.
I
I,
haven't
I
either.
dread it. I dread looking at them, but people seem to think it's cool. So we'll see. We don't know why everybody's singing in this clip, but they all start singing. That is what will open up the second half of the fifth season. So that very first episode will be the musical episode, and we'll just have to see if it's something that's like somebody's in a coma and they're dreaming it, or what happens. I mean, at least in like when it happened in Buffy, you had a demon come to town who cursed everybody to sing everything. So at least you had there was some reason that made sense within the mythos of the show. So we'll just have to see what happens here, because so far we haven't really noticed any musical angels or demons. So, I mean, Lucifer does have some musical talent, but I
Yeah,
mean,
it's true. He performs a little bit. That's true. They have some performances. Yeah.
it's not like we've really seen that. Like, I don't know, that music. I guess is something that should suddenly take over everything. We'll find out.
I'm a show tune queen, and I dread it. I completely dread
Well, we'll just have to take a deep breath and see how it goes.
it.
And we don't yet know when the second half of season 5 will drop. Best guess so far is early part of 2021. Actually Thursday, so 3 days from now, we're filming this on the 21st of September. So the 24th of September is supposed to be their first day back in production for to finish up the finale. So they had gotten partway through the last episode of the season before they had to shut down. So they only have part of this last episode to do before season 5 is complete. And then supposedly they're going to go right into season 6. So we'll see. All right. So any final thoughts about baby Charlie?
I think just and I'm glad you helped me remember where his name came from, because more and more as I think about it, I do like. There's something interesting about Charlotte being redeemed, going to heaven, and now having a namesake. Like that's a lot of influence for that character, and so I just think it's kind of a neat little thing going on there. And again, I would love to see a series of Charlie growing up. I think that would be so interesting, you know.
But we would see more of Linda then, and that's definitely a good thing.
And the Menadiel.
Yeah. But Linda's
And
still.
hopefully Dan.
Well, okay. I still think I'm hoping they kind of give Dan more to do. He really does seem like the most superfluous character that we have on the show.
Yeah, he is.
So, you know, here's for Dan finding more plots that he's part of. All right, so remember, if you like this episode, hit like and subscribe, hit that bell notification so you know when I put up more episodes, and we'll see you next time on Infernal Intercourse. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.